to you on
Be the first to know.
on Core TV News.
From the north, south, east, west and around Africa, we break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV,
24-hour news station.
Welcome to Core Digest this morning. It's interesting to have you there. Everyone in Nigeria is awaiting the elections in Ekiti. Well, this weekend, every attention will be on Ekiti as the election takes place. And prior to this day, all we have seen in the past week is how the contestants are accusing the other of causing the violence that has pervaded Ekiti State to date. Now, it is the speculation from one party to the other that people are talking war chest. For what? Is Ekiti election has stand do or die? Yes, you may remember that on the visit of the Vice President, Architect Namadi Sambo to Ekiti, he did make the statement along the lines of Ekiti will be fight to finish. That may precisely not be the words used by the Vice President, but we know what fight meant when it comes to elections. The other party says, we are ready for you. Nobody will shed blood. But we know today that a number of lives have been lost. So who is talking the war chest in Ekiti? Why are parties putting up a war chest for this governorship election that is meant to serve the people of that prosperous state? If Ekiti will survive this election, why do we need a war chest? Okay, before we go along, we want you to watch these reports from Ekiti that will feature and discuss on the program.
And the reason we would like you to see this report is because it will form the base for our discussion today. And also, we want you to also form your opinion as well, because we are not going to be the judge. You will be the judge ultimately. We're just here as umpires, so to speak. We're just here to let you see the different sides of the political stories making the rounds. We're just here to present the facts to you. Our job is very simple. We'll present you with a fact from A, and we'll also let you see the side of B as well. And then you can see the judge. You can be the judge. So see this report, and we'll be right back.
To keep that to our chest so that we can do our best. But I tell you, it's one of the highest numbers you can ever expect. We're going to deploy for this election. More than any other state that we have been. Because we must look at history. Some of us who are opportune to be in Ondo State in 1983, during the Moboros election. We know what has happened, and we are doing everything to ensure that it's prevented and the election is free and fair without any violence.
It's only a matter of days to the June 21 elections in Ekiti State, and for the police, it's a time to show off their level of preparedness. These helicopters are on their way to Ekiti to provide air support for police team on ground. The pilots are getting last-minute talk, just like the others heading for the southwest Nigeria state. It looks like one of the biggest police operations in recent times, but the Inspector General says it's justified.
That we will do everything humanly possible to provide safety and security for the electoral materials, for the personnel who are going to be involved for the election for INEC, because that is the responsibility of the police. Every other thing will work with INEC in partnership to ensure that this election is free and fair in all this conduct.
Fierce-looking dogs several armored personnel carriers and a bomb-detecting robot are also heading for Ekiti. The police authorities will not give a clear figure of personnel on ground, but they are convinced that the team will live up to expectations.
We have already made plans to ensure that you are paid your due allowances in Ekiti. Every one of you will be given his dues, and therefore I do not expect you to do anything stupid. Regulation must be obeyed and must be respected. Remember, you are going to be watched not only by your own officers, by other organizations, including civil organizations, including international monitors who will be in Ekiti to watch every conduct that you expect there.
And as the police reinforcement departs Abuja, the Inspector General made it clear he won't tolerate any act of indiscipline. But he also wants the political class to play by the rules before, during, and after the June 21 election.
To keep that to our chest so that we can do our best. But I tell you, it's one of the highest numbers you can ever expect that we're going to deploy for this election. More than any other state that we have been. Because we must look at history. Some of us who are opportune to be in Ondo State in 1983, during the Moboros election, we know what has happened, and we are doing everything to ensure that it's prevented and the election is free and fair without any violence.
Okay, reading the Riot Act to the men and officers there was the police chief there. And it's important to also know that we are not just on our own when we talk about elections in Nigeria. We're not just talking about Nigeria's business. This is a business of international concern. The global community is watching. Everybody is watching. The Jimmy Carter Center, for instance, is interested in what we make of this. And I want to dare say that the Ekiti election come Saturday is going to be a test run of what 2015 will look like. Shay, are you still here with me?
Indeed, indeed. From what we saw there, the security war chest, why this much, you would ask? And the Inspector General of Police, who is very, very mindful of what people will say, has told his men why they have all of this in Ekiti. We have seen what Ekiti was like in the past few weeks. People were torching vehicles and thugs were out there, each party blaming the other for the violence in Ekiti. So that there are no violence, anything deplored, we can say may be justified. But as long as the people are not affected by the security war chest, that's the most important bit to the situation with regards to Ekiti election come Saturday. So, the question is, should the people be really deterred with all of these armored personnel, all of these dogs, as it were, helicopters, and the issue of security? All of us should be, should I say, including the political parties and all watchers of the election, should feel less concerned, but a little more on the side of getting it right.
Absolutely.
It's not that the security is there to assist, even if the speculation tends to go that way. But we should feel more concerned that the country at this time is in a state of quasi-emergency.
Okay.
So we don't know where it will be next. So let all these security paraphernalias be where they are, as long as it does not point to the people.
Yes, because before you said that, I was going to say the security war chest, in whose interest? In whose interest? At the end of the day, we know that the primary objective, the primary obligation and duty of the security personnel that we have in Nigeria is to protect the citizenry. And at elections like this, we know how some unscrupulous elements can want to unleash terror on the electorate for different reasons. Some money bags could have hired thugs to work for them, to cause mayhem so that they can doctor the elections and the results of the elections whichever way. Some people who feel, well, the elections might not go their way, might want to cause mayhem so that at the end of the day, it shouldn't go either way. Do you understand? Because you know that you're not likely to win because you see that it's not going in your favor.
Let's not be speculative along those lines of you're not likely.
Just trying to give reasons why some people in the past had attempted to cause mayhem at elections.
Oh yes. I mean,
so it's going to be for different reasons. It's going to be for different, but for whatever reason, the war chest and the security personnel on ground to watch over the election and, of course, the electorate have a primary obligation, and that obligation is to the citizenry.
Secure Ekiti.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
QED, so that, quite easily done.
Yes. So that
no more, no less.
It's not for the sake of one party over the other. Should we tend it to mean that because Ekiti does not have its own police to put on the streets to watch vandals and vagabonds and thugs who may want to disrupt this election, so the federal might is coming in and mightily too, as it were. So we should reason beyond all of this. That is, make our people feel this is for you. This is what the nation requires so that we can all get it right. Again, we did talk about people who want to cause mayhem. Where do they come from? Somebody, some money bag says, look, make sure this and this can happen. How do we circumvent this, the electoral situation?
And process.
Yes, and process to our benefit and all of that. So what do? We've seen it happen. Just as the Inspector General of Police did mention. I remember 1983. The Omoboria was saga then, and what happened in Ondo State. It was a nightmare that nobody, I mean nobody, who may have experienced that time would want a recurrence of it. Not today, not yesterday, not in the future.
Not any time.
Not any time. Because the things that happened at that time were practically unimaginable, particularly in today's dispensation where we tend to even know more, particularly in today's situation where the security of the nation is of paramount interest to each and every one of us. Knowing what happened in Owerri, we don't want such to happen anywhere. So a deterrence is what we want to imagine these security paraphernalias are meant for, to send a signal that don't come try to disrupt things.
Or else.
Or else.
Now,
is that else I don't want to happen?
There's an area I want us to dig into for the purpose of this discussion. You mentioned federal might, and that's quite interesting because when you look at the Nigeria police, there had been public debate several times on having state police, community policing. Now that we're not having that, as it were, now, and the police in Nigeria is still under the federal government's control, so to speak.
Yes.
Now, how much influence do you think at election times like this, the government at the central that wields so much power and influence and authority and autonomy, quote unquote, should have on a state like this? And how much autonomy should the state enjoy when it comes to election periods like this, at least for this time? What I'm saying is, shouldn't the federal government, would you say, or should we say the federal government should, at least to some extent, loosen the noose on the control and influence it wields over the police so that the state can enjoy some autonomy in the affairs and the activities of the police vis-a-vis security?
I grew up to know local government police.
Okay.
I grew up to know market police.
Okay.
I grew up to know environmental police people. I grew up to know traffic. They call them then what used to be the name? Something.
Not traffic wardens.
No. Traffic warden was a later creation. Traffic men and women who were part-time policemen of sorts.
Okay.
Within the local government, or all of these. Along the line, the government whittled out all of these, and they were thrown away. The issue of politicians bringing back police on their own didn't come this far until when they saw what politicians were doing with police. And the federal government thought, oh yes, we could do this. All right. During the Shagari era, the police took a new dimension, and it became almost the tool for the government in power, not wanting to deal with the army.
I remember, I caught memory.
And, you know, loosening the noose on the police, it tells you that the police can be even as much more effective than the army in the street. The army is not meant to be in the street. Their training, their orientation does not have anything to do with the streets.
Absolutely.
In many countries, you don't see the army outside. They're in the barracks or in the hinterlands. Rarely would you see
only in
military
extreme
personnel.
cases. Only in extreme cases.
But why do we have the army on our streets? Why do we get to use the army on elections? Is what emanated from our dismembering and loosening up the grip which the government had on the police.
Again, I'm going to just drop something for you there, talking about the army and their engagement during elections. Now, you'd understand that there is electorate understanding and there's electorate psychology. Now, the psychology of the electorate goes a long way in informing what type of security you engage during elections. Now, we understand the peculiarity of the Nigerian situation. We understand the peculiarity of the Nigerian electorate. And we know that an average Nigerian might want to also, maybe also because of the antecedents of the Nigeria police anyway, and the lack of confidence that the Nigerian police has in some way, or because of the lack of confidence of the average Nigerian in the Nigerian police. Now, we know that in the past, the Nigerian army had been very effective in ensuring security during elections, to some extent. Now, wouldn't you say engaging them during elections like this would only corroborate and also buttress to a large extent the ability and the competence of the Nigerian police?
Are they arming the people in the Nigerian army or personnel in the Nigerian army, are they not Nigerians?
Of course they are.
So what makes the police different from the army?
That's the $1 million question. You and I know that that question is very relevant, but to a large extent, there had been a wide gap between the activities of these military personnel, so to speak,
Unfortunately,
and their performances over time.
Unfortunately, people don't seem to have confidence in either. these days. Yes, we're all Nigerians. We know what's the situation in our countries and the way people tend to approach anyone in uniform. The civil defense is there. They are working too. We have the civil defense who are meant to do this work in the first place with collaboration of the police, and in the background there should be what is called the rapid, that is the mobile policemen who can be moved.
Yeah, the rapid response squad.
Which can be moved at any given time to go to areas where there are problems.
Yeah.
In 1964, you never saw the army on the street. In 1963, there was no army involved in those elections where you have OPGA, you have NCNC and all of those. The army was not involved. Come 1966, we started knowing what the army. I've never seen anyone outside the barracks on the streets. The people I know in the barracks, you hardly see them on the streets. When you see them on the street, you don't see them in uniform. I'm a barrack boy. I'm a total barrack boy. I grew up in the barracks, and all I knew in my childhood was barrack life. People you saw in the barracks, you never see them in the streets with uniform. That was how it was. And suddenly, you started seeing military uniforms, army uniforms on the street. Even people who are mobile policemen are not seen ordinarily outside in the streets when I was growing up. But suddenly, these are the people who took care of elections in those days. Now, because of the military incursion, the army influence and the army orientation, yes, army is seen all over the place. People know what the army looks like. But the way Nigerians have tended to date with what politicians and our democracy, the freedom it has accorded people, everybody, including the army, feels, so it be, okay, let me too have a chop of it. Let me too have a share of it.
Now, Shay, yes, I'm enjoying the understanding. And again, I like to argue back and forth. I like to balance out things, okay? Now, I just spoke about the preference of the army in ensuring security, looking at their capabilities and their antecedents over time, vis-a-vis the police. But again, I also want to look at the negative effect of the presence of the Nigerian army in the streets during the election. The negative effect of that psychologically on the electorate.
It puts people
because
off.
Immediately you see that uniform, that camouflage, with or without gun, immediately you see that uniform, something happens to psychology, something talks to you. To behave, quote unquote, behave.
It just makes
even when you didn't plan any violence.
It just makes you feel like, oh,
I'm being watched.
It's not a case of I'm being watched. What people instinctively tend to think about is, oh, the federal government is here.
You see,
because it's the army that controls. I mean, it's the government that controls the army and the police.
Immediately,
so
you become unsettled.
The government wants to come and use all of these apparatus to stifle the other people, so that their own interests
can be protected.
May be the one that will be this paraphernalia is being used to assist or to help. But the people are a little wiser. But the problem I have with Nigerians, particularly in that area, I am very familiar with Ado Ekiti. Very, very familiar with Ado Ekiti.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm prior now, last 1 year or so, I virtually went to Ado Ekiti every weekend.
Wow, okay.
And I know the people. The lifestyle there is, look, they don't want trouble, but when trouble comes, they won't run away. These are the kind of people we're dealing with. When trouble comes, they don't run away. It festers very quickly, which is why the incidences of violence that we have seen recently comes like that. It's like a recurring issue. Yeah. They wouldn't run away. from a journalistic point of view, I mean, when you see the army and the police ready with armored personnel vehicles and dogs and these and helicopters hovering, so is it the government people they want to come and protect? So we'll see. But whether that is the case or not, it should not prevent the people from going out to vote. Majority of the people in Ado-Ekiti will want to come out and vote.
This Saturday is the 21st of June, 2014, obviously. And in Ekiti State, scores of people, the electorate, hundreds of thousands of people will troop out en masse, supposedly, to choose a leader that for the next 4 years make a major impact on their destinies, on their fulfillments, on their lives generally. And that is in the governorship election of that state, June 21st, this Saturday. And our focus this morning on Core Digest is, of course, on that election, Ekiti 2014, the security war chest. If you have any feedback, you have comments you want to make on the show, you can reach us. We are open to your comments on any of our social media platforms. Facebook.com/Core TV News is how to get to us on Facebook. You may also want to follow us on Twitter. At Core TV News NG is our handle on Twitter. And on YouTube, youtube.com/Core TV News. We'll take a break now. When we come back, it's going to be News on the Hour. That's at 10 o'clock. Immediately after that, then we can continue with what we have for you. Shay?
Yes, we'll see you on the other side of the news. Don't go away. Please keep sending your messages to all of those that have been read to you. Facebook, Twitter, and of course, you can watch us on YouTube. We'll see you after the news.
Core TV News presents a platform with presence in over 30 states of the Federation. Be sure to be had. For live coverage of events, we have the capacity to deliver from anywhere in Nigeria and beyond. Contact us now on 0803 471 8550 or 0803-724-9733, 014-533-407.
A 24-hour news station